Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, I talk about one of the topics that I got into Japanese animation, and that one of those type of topics is the comics and the comic book store. Okay, and as most people, as started in anime and that kind of stuff at this time, one of the problems that we always had was, well, where do you get the anime? And the starting point for a lot of people sometimes is by going to their local shop or whatever that actually might have some anime. Okay, and some people, especially a lot of urban places, that first shop would be a comic book store. And so in today's episode, I'm going to go over some of the stories I have with my history with the comic book stores and some of the comics I have in my comic book collection. Before I begin, I want to remind everyone to go down below, click like, and click subscribe, because obviously anything that interaction that you do with this particular video will definitely help the YouTube algorithm, because that's how it works. It's a machine, as it were. So again, if you have any interesting comments and that kind of stuff, why don't you just throw it below, and then you give it a sort of a quick notion on that. Okay, if you want to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button available, as well as the links for the PayPal and Patreon below. I just posted a brand new episode about customs, because obviously I'm from Canada, so every time I have to go down to Anime Expo or San Diego Comic Con, I have to cross into the US to go get the goodies at the con, and then of course have to come back. So I've got a special episode again, which I talk about more sensitive topics in a more careful way. Do put that again. That has to go on the the subscribers Patreon page, because obviously I can't talk about it here on YouTube, right? So again, do check that out if you have the chance. Okay, right? I gotta go through one box and some selections of different comics that I was interested in basically gonna do. Okay. So without further delay, let's begin. Okay, so we're going to go through this box really quickly, and then we'll go through some of the individual issues of note here. So on the right front there, we have Battle Chasers, Dark Minds, we have Dirty Pair, we have the elimination of the Dragon's Lair, we have one of the big sections here, Gen 13. They also collect a lot of Gold Digger. It's the for Macross 2. First bunch of issues of Magic the Gathering. Ninja High School, very independent one. I'm My Goddess, like the manga. There's more materials about the Punisher series. A whole bunch of various different Robotech, which I kept cut about this already because there's lots of sub-stories to use that. Usagi no Jimbo. Vampy was a very favorite one of mine. Let's see, a Warrior Nun Aurelia, and of course some various different sort of X-Men. Okay. So that's in this particular box, and now I'm going to have a closer look at the actual issues themselves. We start with Battle Chasers, and Battle Chasers I started following, and one of the things I kind of did without kind of turned off about it is the fact that this came out in a period of time where they kept on releasing a lot of alternate covers. And being a comic book collector, you not only bought a copy of for yourself to read and that kind of stuff, but you also sometimes bought extra copies for speculation. Well, you had to end up buying the extra alternate covers, because sometimes those alternate covers were worth a heck of a lot more. And so that one was really annoying. The next one here is Dark Minds. Now I really like this one because it really had that sort of really Ghost in a Shell kind of feel to it. That kind of a little bit of cyberpunkish sort of feel, maybe even a little bit Pat Labor even. But it was really fun. I think again it's a very short one, so I kind of followed that one and that. The next one is the Dirty Pair series. Now this one is kind of a strange one because it's drawn by Adam Warren, and I'd rank this into the category of Well, because no other anime was out there, this is what you had to buy. So, sure, they probably could have released Dirty Pair of the comics, based off of the, graphic novels or off the anime, but they didn't. They got some other artist, to draw it. And it was, at the time I thought it was kind of reasonable, so I kind of bought it under the pretense of, well, this is sort of what we had. Okay, next one is Dragon's Lair. And this is, again, I bought this one because obviously, I played the video game back in the day, where you're, standing in the arcade playing these things and trying to memorize those sequences and that kind of stuff was just absolutely annoying to get down to the story. But yeah, I collected a bunch of issues of this one. I know that during our convention, anime evolution, the company Arcane Comics did send us a whole bunch of sample comics and that kind of stuff to give out in the swag bags, to all the convention goers. And so that's when I started my collection of this one, and I just kind of kept all those different issues. The next one is Gen 13. Now, Gen 13 is one of these comics that it really depends on who sort of does it and when did it. So at the beginning, they had Wildstorm, and the character art was then mostly Arnott and that kind of stuff. I wasn't really interested in it, so I kind of collected it sparingly. Then when they switched over to Choi, I sort of liked some of the covers and that kind of stuff more, and again the internal art I didn't like so much. And again, there's a funny story where I talk about when there was an issue of 10th Muse, where I went to the con and met the artist that does the inside of the comic, but I was complimenting so much about the cover of the comic, because I didn't want to say that the actual inside of the comic was crap. But anyway, you can check out that episode where I describe it in full detail. But when they switched Gen to the new one, again, more artwork done by Adam Warren. Then again, I started collecting more of the Gen 13s and that kind of stuff again, just because again, I guess sort of getting used to his art style. Again, he has a unique sort of art style, which I kind of like how he draws the female character. The way he uses colors, very kind of a manga type style. Sure, I have a little bit of a beef with his facial structures and how he sometimes overdoes the lips a little bit sometimes, but a personal style and I get it. But again, this is sort of one of those type of things where this is all you kind of get, right? This is what you get, So so of the ones that I was collecting at that time, this is what I sort of really kind of was sort of the better of the batches, shall we say, at this particular time. Okay, so the next one is Gold Digger. Now, again, this one was really, one of those type of, sort of independence that I got. Obviously it really revolves around furries and that kind of stuff, which again, was the really, primary focus of the CFO and that kind of stuff. So the art was all right by, Fred Perry. And this just ran for a long, long time. This is one of those type of titles, again, because there was nothing else in terms of at least the original type of stuff. I started collecting this one, and then I generally speaking like supporting the independent artists and that kind of stuff. But then, I said there became lots and lots of Gold Digger, and Anarch Press and that kind of stuff when it took over. Things like Ninja High School was also in the same sort of company. And so, the series became very, very long. And the problem is that, as time went on, the innovations and art styles didn't progress. They didn't get other artists online and on board trying to draw the different arts. They didn't do all the alternate covers and that kind of stuff. And so I think what had happened is that, this artwork and that kind of stuff, A, got stale, and B, didn't keep up with all the other stuff, which became way more flashier, way more colorful, way more done with the sort of that sort of shading and it's that sort of that manga style, which is this is what it's trying to portray, right? Is a manga type style, but it even after 100 issues, it really never really changed all that much. So that's just sort of one of those things that again. because you kind of got into it, you kind of kept going with it, but really, it wasn't one of those ones that you probably should have hung on to or held your interest. You're just there, just kind of because it's part of your subscription. You just kind of said, okay, I'll keep doing it. It's cheap enough. Whatever. I'll keep following it, and that sort of thing. So, that's sort of one of those ones that ended up in that category. Okay, so the next one is the Macross 2 comics. Now this is again one of these, based off of the graphic novels, also for the anime, and this is one of those where really I probably would have been better just buying the Japanese graphic novel, but then this basically is just taking the English translation and not putting it into graphic novel form, and just actually putting in the separate different form, sort of broken up comics, right? Um, you know, I guess this is one of those cases where, this is all you get, and so this is your only alternative. So then you end up having to buy this just because that's how you get your translation for it. So, it is what it is what you can get. Okay, the next one is the comics for the Magic the Gathering. Now I got these ones as a promo, again, from Wizards of the Coast, and they always do their tournaments and and they have promo events and that kind of stuff. And so I got these ones of them, and it's kind of a neat sort of collecting kind of thing. The stories are kind of interesting, because they fill in backgrounds for some of the characters and some of that for the card game. Um, the only thing that really the big turn off me is that again, because they use a variety of different artwork for the cards and that kind of stuff. The artwork is not consistent, and and for the most part, I actually don't even like the artwork that's in the stories over here. But again, that's my personal thing. But I keep the comics just for collectible ability, I suppose, if nothing else. The next one is Ninja High School. Now, again, this is one of those ones I collected, relatively early. It's an interesting concept. I think it's the variation of the, Urusei Yatsura story. And, at the beginning, I actually did like, Ben Dunn's, kind of work out, again, like supporting the independent artists and that kind of stuff. And this is sort of the thing, sort of kind of the manga style, sort of in a U.S. drawn, but manga style type of thing, right? So I gravitated to this from the very beginning, and then I started collecting more and more of it. Now this is one, like Gold Digger, this series went on for a really long time and for a little while. And again, it's just sort of one of these things that, 'cause now that I started subscribing to it and I'm getting the issues every sort of thing, I'm, kind of, keeping up, and it's like, yeah, I guess I'll continue getting more episodes of it. But again, this again, I think like Gold Digger, suffers from having the same artist and same style for such a long time. The story just kept on adding more characters, and it just seemed to be going nowhere. So literally until I got all the way up to like 100 comics, Ninja High School number 100, before they switched over and got new character designers and new stuff, so that actually really gave it a nice breath of fresh air almost, right? Because they're under NHS. It has new artists. Actually really had some nice anime looking kind of characters and that kind of stuff, which gave I think just breathed new life into the franchise. The next one is the manga for the Goddess. Okay. Again, this is the first couple issues that they came out from Dark Horse, which took the manga and basically broke it into chapters and put it into more a digestible form. Again, this is how they started releasing it, and of course, later on, I found it way more efficient to just wait and get the graphic novel, which actually puts it all together. I mean, that was just the better way to do it. And then, of course, I think it's probably even cheaper actually that way. But this is when they first originally released it. This is how they end up. And so it was, our first way to get the English translated version of the mangas for Amogattis. Okay, next I have some, I guess, the standard Marvel comics. I did do a little bit of work with the Punisher, so I thought, okay, all right, I thought that was a really kind of interesting character. I remember, picking that up when I was, relatively little, and at a time where it was sort of one of the comics that was sort of available in mass, so that you didn't actually have to go to the comic book store to get. And so I remember picking up this little, short sort of kind of a digest-sized version of it, and that's what I sort of got into. So later on, I collected some of the comics for it, and kept up with the story and some of the variations of that. Okay, so the next big category is obviously Robotech. Now, Robotech has a whole bunch of different, chapters and different things for that. But again, I'll go from worst to better. So obviously, the worst comics ever, was the one that came out originally from Kamiko for Robotech, Macross Masters, and New Next Generation. And it's, the artwork is just atrocious. Okay, but this is all we had. So this is a case of, this is what you're gonna get. You either take it and accept it, regardless of how crappy it is. So even when Eternity took over the license of that for the Kamiko stuff, their stuff under Eternity was like, they didn't even upgrade the standards. Like, it's still equally as crappy. Just using even I'd argue like a subpar, even compared to like Marvel or DC or anything like that, like totally subpar stuff from Eternity. Even if when I went to buy like the the limited edition when they made the Robotech Genesis, here I have one with the alternate cover and one with the special collector's edition. I mean, this is one of those things where they're trying to make you buy the extra copy, which I did, but still it's equally horribly drawn. I mean, it's just like total garbage in comparison to some of the stuff that later comes out as time goes on. But again, literally everything that came out from the Eternity line, it was just horrid. Better than Kamiko, okay, but still pretty far down the list in terms of mangas and that kind of stuff. So again, but again, in order to get stories, and again, we were really desperate, shall we say, for new continuations for the Robotech story. We wanted to see more continuation to the storyline, different variations of the story, because we are all sort of interested in this Robotech. We have this word, the Robotech, in our mind. We want to see more. We want to kind of absorb more. And again, this is because this is all that's out there. This is all you can buy. This is all you can consume, even though it is as horrible as it is, right? But as time goes on, as licenses change, the artwork got better. They got better artists. But again, you had to wait until the Eternity thing kind of passed, right? And then the other companies got into the line. Sure, they some other companies kind of came in and they started releasing some of these other some of the independents and that kind of stuff started coming in, and they started releasing other different chapters from different things. So for example, here's some Macross 2, and then here's some more Robotech Sentinels, the Rubicon, from Anarch Press, and but the main one that was really kind of significant is the ones that came out from like Academy Comics, because they had more of a they look like kind of the Antarctic Press kind of thing. Still not much better. I mean, this is another kind of. I think the market is trying to find out where, they can get away with getting, adding more to the story without actually, characters looking the same and whatnot. This is like, our interpretation of what that. I mean, if I look at Mega Road, right, it literally looks more like Star Blazers, but that's that costume type. And then of course, Eternity has has a version called the Infinite War Aftermath, and again, this is more comic looking. Okay, interesting variation, continuation to the Invid story, and but still very comic like. Okay, less manga like, but more Western comic like. But you can see that even with all these variations coming out, they are trying to experiment and trying to find out where we can, where we can make some money off of just the Robotech name itself. And so here we have all these different variations. In this case, the Aftermath. Again, very different, very you know, different art styles and whatnot, as they were trying to experiment and use different people. I think Academy Comics did a lot of that kind of stuff in that respect. Okay, but the main thing that was really interesting is when it was switched over to Wildstorm. You know, that has a major change. Okay, and here I have a copy of the first issue that Academy Comics did using Bill Strangler and William Jang. Now, of course, I mentioned earlier in one of my other episodes, William Jang is one of the people that also was part of the Vancouver Japanese Animation Society, and when we took him down to San Diego Comic Con, he was one of the people that brought a portfolio, and spent many nights in San Diego modifying his portfolio and drawing pictures, and he actually ended up landing a job with Academy Comics to do that work for that. So that was really good. And to continue, Wildstorm basically getting their line of artists and that kind of stuff to do Robotech stories and that kind of stuff. And when they got those guys on it, the art quality just jumped significantly. I really do like a lot of the stuff from the artists like Vo and all kind of stuff. They really they really upped the quality. They made it very manga like. They spent a lot of times in color, and this effort was cross shading and that kind of stuff. It's just a really higher quality type of drawing, and a higher standard that Wildstorm did for Robotech, and that was one of the better series to collect for sure. Okay, the next one in the box is the series Vampy. And so again, from Harris Comics, right? So the guys who bring you Vampirella. I really like. This is a really nice anime style. Kevin Lau's work here. He does a really a good job on this sort of style. Again, it's part of that production team that really does a really good job. Making this kind of good, vibrant covers, as well as I think the female figure is drawn really well, and and so again, following this particular artist and that kind of stuff, I got a whole bunch of issues, and got into this particular one. Okay, the next one is the Warrior Nun Aurelia, which is done by Anorak Press. Again, this is probably based on Ben Dunn's artwork, and so this is one of those things, those series that they had to keep rebooting it over and over and over again. So you can see these are all issue ones, including the first edition issue one, the special edition issue one, and then the reprinted issue one, all done in the new format. Also, all of them had been done, and I don't know what happened. It's just maybe they had to keep reintroducing the story because he was too busy doing Ninja High School or something. And the story never went anywhere. They tried to do an animated version of it, which just essentially went nowhere. So, it's one of those kind of concept ideas that probably would have went. If they really flushed it out and kind of did something, it might have actually went some, and became popular in some way. But it had a lot of potential anyway. But it's just they sat around and just did nothing with it. Okay, the next one I have here is the X-Men. Okay, now when I was a kid and watching Saturday morning cartoons, X-Men was a really big thing. So following up on that, I did get into comics and that kind of stuff with X-Men. So then when we got down to Vancouver and still going to go to the comic store and start getting into it, thinking of collecting X-Men. At the time, I was surprised that there was actually 11 different X-Men titles. Okay, so if you go to the subscription service and that kind of stuff, and you say, okay, well, which X-Men are you going to try to to try to collect, which ones you're going to try to speculate on and that kind of stuff. This is like absolutely freaking ridiculous because imagine 11 different X-Men titles that came out every month. And you're expected to keep up with that, and it's like forget it. That's not gonna happen. Like so I got really picky and choosy about which ones I got, and if the cover looked alright, then sure, I'll grab it. If it's a particular artist I like, I'll grab it, right? So one of the special covers that came out, or the special editions that came out, Marvel went out and got Kiyomiya, who's famous for things like Mobius, Compiler, and they got him to say, hey, why don't you do a couple issues of the Uncanny X-Men? So again, here you have some very, very, very manga looking X-Men titles. So again, I picked all those ones up, and I thought those were really kind of cool. The other one that I saw that was rather very interesting was the X-Men versus Star Trek one. So again, this is one of those ones where they mix two different genres together into a particular issue, and I thought that really was really interesting, less than the collectible side, but obviously much more on the sort of very interesting side. So again, I collected those ones. Of the crossovers, still my favorite one that I remember getting when I was a kid was the Superman versus Sergeant Rock crossover. Some of them are made better than others, but definitely they're really fun when they get put together well. All right, so I hope you found that kind of interesting. And again, this is just one particular comic box I have. I sure have many other ones in storage. So we'll pull out and I'll go through them in further detail. And again, I'll also make a subsequent episode on the subscriber channels as well. That will allow me to go into more further detail on some of these comics and go through them, individually as well as in detail. Go over some of the ones that I'm not allowed to go over on YouTube because they don't like that kind of material, right? So again, keep an eye out for that one when I get that released. Okay, so until next time, I will see you again.